Let me start by saying, I'm not the kind of person who jumps at every creak in the floor or whisper of the wind. I've lived alone most of my adult life, and I'm pretty rational, maybe even too rational sometimes. But after what happened to me in that apartment in downtown Chicago, I'm not sure I trust my senses anymore, or my judgment, or even my memory. This all started about 8 months ago. I'd just gone through a rough breakup with my ex, Noah. We'd been together 4 years, lived together 2 of those, and I thought we were heading toward marriage. Turns out he was also heading toward sleeping with his coworker behind my back. Classic. So I needed a fresh start. New neighborhood, new apartment, new life. I found this place on Craigslist, which in hindsight was probably mistake number 1. But the listing seemed legit. It was a studio apartment on the 3rd floor of an old red brick building in the Wicker Park area. The pictures showed exposed brick, big windows, decent lighting, and a price that seemed just barely affordable. In Chicago, that combination is rare. It should have been a red flag. But I was desperate. I toured it the same day I saw the listing. The landlord, Mr. Tillman, was this soft-spoken older guy in his 60s who barely made eye contact. The way he showed me around, it was like he didn't even care if I took it or not. He didn't pressure me, didn't upsell anything. He just gave me the keys after I signed the lease and said, "Welcome to 3B. Let me know if anything leaks." At the time, I liked that he wasn't pushy. Now I realize he just didn't want to be involved. Anyway, the place was fine, a little musty. The wood floors creaked, especially near the kitchen, and there was a weird stain on the ceiling in the bathroom. But I figured that's what you get with older buildings. And for the first few weeks, everything was normal. Boring, even. I'd spend my evenings binging true crime or horror podcasts, ironically enough, and drinking cheap wine on my couch. I was starting to feel like myself again. Independent, strong, unbothered. But then the noise started. It was subtle at first, just a soft thumping sound, like someone knocking gently from the other side of the wall. It came from the back of my closet, which was oddly deep, like unnecessarily deep for an apartment this size. The first time I heard it, I was lying in bed around 2 a.m. I remember freezing mid-scroll on my phone because it sounded so specific, like knuckles tapping once, twice, pause, then once again. I told myself it was just the pipes. Or maybe the building settling. Old buildings make noise. Everyone knows that. But the pattern continued the next night. Same time, same spot. The thumping was never aggressive, just consistent. Like it wanted me to notice it without freaking out. And it worked. I didn't freak out. Not yet. Still, I started sleeping with a lamp on, just in case. About a week later, I noticed something else. Every time I opened the closet door, the air inside felt colder. Not just a little cooler, cold, like a refrigerator. I checked for vents or drafts, but there was nothing. The building didn't have central AC, just a clunky radiator near the window. There was no logical reason for that kind of chill. Then one night, I decided to investigate. It was a Wednesday, I think. I remember because I'd just gotten home from a miserable day at work, and I was in the mood to distract myself with something, anything. So I grabbed a flashlight, pulled everything out of the closet, clothes, boxes, old books, and started tapping on the back wall. Most of it sounded solid, but when I got to the lower right corner, the sound changed. It had that hollow, echoey tone, like tapping on drywall instead of brick. I felt along the surface with my fingers, and that's when I noticed it, the faintest outline of a square panel, like a hidden door about 2 feet wide. The edges were almost invisible unless the light hit just right. My heart started pounding, and not from fear. It was curiosity. That dumb, dangerous kind of curiosity that makes people in horror movies open cursed boxes and say things like, "Did you hear that?" I pressed on the panel, and to my surprise, it gave a little, just enough to suggest there was space behind it. At this point, I should have stopped, called the landlord, texted a friend, literally done anything besides what I actually did, which was grab a butter knife from the kitchen and start prying the panel loose. It came off easier than I expected. No screws, no lock. Just old wood wedged into place. Behind it was darkness, a shallow void. The beam of my flashlight barely cut through the dust swirling inside. The opening looked just big enough for me to crawl through, if I wanted to. Which, of course, I didn't. I'm not that stupid. But I did reach my arm in, and immediately I felt a rush of cold air and something else. Movement. Not like wind, more like the air shifted as if something had been disturbed. I snatched my arm back, heart hammering in my throat. The room suddenly felt too quiet, too still. I put the panel back as best I could and shoved a heavy box in front of it. Told myself it was nothing. Maybe an old maintenance crawl space. Maybe a vent system no longer in use. Maybe I was just tired. I didn't sleep much that night. And the next morning when I woke up, my closet was open. Not just ajar, fully open. Everything I'd put back inside had been moved. My coats were on the floor. My shoe rack tipped sideways. And the panel? The one I'd wedged shut. It was back in place, but not the way I left it. I had jammed it in roughly, but now it sat flush with the wall, almost perfectly aligned. Like someone, or something, had put it back. I stood there for probably 10 minutes, staring at it, trying to make sense of it. There was no sign of forced entry. My front door was locked. Windows latched. Nothing had been stolen. If this was a break-in, it was the strangest one I'd ever heard of. That was the first morning I called in sick to work because I couldn't stop shaking. I kept pacing around my apartment, checking closets, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. I even walked the hall to see if any neighbors were around, but the entire floor was dead silent. That's when I realized I hadn't seen a single neighbor since I moved in. Not one. Not in the hallway, not in the stairwell, not on the sidewalk out front. Just Mr. Tillman, the landlord. And even he hadn't shown up since I signed the lease. I know how this sounds. I do. But I swear to God, I started to feel like I was the only living soul in that building, like everyone else had just disappeared. And then came the scratching. It started 3 nights after I found the panel, light at first, like fingernails dragging slowly against wood. It came from inside the closet, not behind the wall, inside, as if something was trying to crawl out. I didn't even open the door. I just sat in my bed, with the blanket clutched up to my chin, staring at the closet like it was going to explode. By morning, the noise stopped, but the door was open again, and on the floor, just in front of the panel, was something that hadn't been there before. A single old-fashioned brass key. It was small, ornate, and cold to the touch. Too cold. Like it had been buried in snow. I picked it up, held it for a moment, then dropped it in the kitchen drawer next to my lighters and loose change. That day, I told myself I was leaving. I even started looking for other listings. But moving takes time and money, neither of which I had in abundance. So I stayed, and things got worse. Much, much worse. After I found the brass key, things changed. Not all at once, but gradually. and in the kind of way you don't really notice until it's too late. Like a slow leak in a gas line. You only realize something's wrong when you're already choking. At first, I chalked it up to stress. I wasn't sleeping much, obviously. And my days at work were turning into these foggy, half-conscious stretches where I could barely focus on anything. I'd forget basic things, like whether I'd eaten that morning, or if I'd responded to emails I swore I already typed. A few coworkers started asking if I was okay. I told them I was just going through stuff. They nodded politely. That's what people do when they don't want to get involved. But I was unraveling. And the apartment? It was like it knew. Let me back up for a second and tell you about something that happened about a week after I found the key. I hadn't touched the panel again since that first night, and I'd shoved that box of winter clothes tightly against it. Every morning I checked to make sure the closet door was shut. Every night I double-checked. Then one morning, I think it was a Saturday, I woke up to a loud noise, like something slammed into the floor. Not a subtle sound. It was sharp and heavy, like someone had dropped a bowling ball onto hardwood. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, and instinctively looked toward the closet. It was wide open, not cracked, not partially ajar, wide, Ving, open dot. The box I'd shoved in front of the panel was tipped forward. The lid had come off, and my sweaters were spilled out like something had crawled up through them. I grabbed my phone immediately and started recording. I don't know why. I think I just wanted proof. Some kind of evidence that I wasn't hallucinating. I filmed the entire closet, zoomed in on the panel, then walked through the rest of the apartment. All quiet, all empty. When I watched the footage back, though, I nearly dropped the phone. Because in the video, right as I panned across the hallway outside the closet, I caught something. A shadow. It wasn't mine. It was behind me. But when I turned around at the time, no one was there. The shadow didn't move like a person, either. It was jerky, twitchy, like it was stuck in place but trying to move. I scrubbed back through the video at least 20 times, zooming in and adjusting the brightness, and it was always the same. Just one frame, maybe two, where the shadow flickered into view, then gone. I sat on the floor after that, still holding my phone, and tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light. Maybe from outside the window, maybe from passing traffic. But the sun hadn't even risen yet, and the blinds were shut. There was no light. I didn't show anyone the video. I should have, maybe. But how do you bring that up without sounding insane? Hey, want to see the demon that lives in my closet? So I kept it to myself, like everything else. A few nights later, I had my first dream. I say dream, but it felt more like a memory I didn't recognize. In it, I was standing in the closet, staring at the panel. The light was dim, flickering, like a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. The closet was empty, stripped bare. Even the walls looked different. No drywall, just raw wooden slats, old and rotting. Then the panel opened, not slowly, not with a creak. It just snapped open like it was on a spring, and inside wasn't another room, but a hallway, long, narrow, pitch black. In the dream, I stepped inside. The floor beneath my feet was cold and uneven. Stone? I couldn't tell. There was no sound, no ambient hum, no echo, just complete, suffocating silence. And then I heard the breathing. It didn't come from ahead of me. It came from behind, slow, rasping, wet, like someone was standing right behind my ear. I turned around, but there was nothing, just the closet I had walked through, now closed. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even move. I just stood there, frozen in the dark, and something began whispering in a language I didn't understand. Fast, guttural syllables, repeated over and over like a prayer or a chant. And that's when I woke up. I shot up in bed, drenched in sweat, my sheets tangled around me. I was gasping so hard, it felt like my ribs might crack. My hands were trembling. I checked the time, 3:13 a.m. classic horror movie hour. I didn't go back to sleep. I just sat on the couch with all the lights on until morning. And the worst part, when I went to the kitchen later to make coffee, I found something waiting for me on the counter. The brass key, the one I'd stashed in the drawer. It was sitting right next to my coffee mug, like someone had left it there for me. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it for a long time, feeling my stomach twist into knots. That was when I started searching the apartment. I mean, really searching. Every inch, every corner. I pulled up rugs, unscrewed vent covers, checked under furniture I hadn't moved since moving in. I even pried the molding off part of the wall. I was looking for something, anything, that could explain what was happening. Maybe a hidden camera, maybe a hole in the wall where someone was messing with me. But I found nothing. No wires, no footprints, no signs of tampering, just dust and silence. I even texted Mr. Tillman, the landlord, for the first time since I moved in. Hey, is there any kind of crawl space or access panel behind the closet in 3B? Again 10 minutes later. Also, have you ever had reports of weird noises or anything from this unit? No response. Not even a read receipt. That night I slept with the lights on again, but I didn't dream. Or if I did, I didn't remember. What I did remember was waking up to my front door unlocked. I'm obsessive about locking it. I check it twice every night, even jiggle the knob just to be sure. But that morning, it was wide open, not even just the deadbolt undone. The entire door cracked open, swaying slightly from the hallway breeze. I rushed to it, heart in my throat, and scanned the hallway. Empty. No footsteps, no sounds, just that sterile humming silence of the apartment building that now felt more like a mausoleum than a place people actually lived. I shut the door, locked every bolt, and pushed a chair under the knob for good measure. That was the day I started researching the building. I dug through online records, property listings, even old newspaper articles. I went full true crime podcaster mode. Turns out the building was over 120 years old. It used to be a boarding house back in the early 1900s, then a sanitarium, then a hotel, then sat abandoned for decades before being converted into apartments in the early 2000s. But buried in one of the old archive pages, just a single paragraph in a scanned PDF, was a police report dated 1957. Tenant in Unit 3B found deceased. Door locked from the inside. Cause of death unknown. Notes mention signs of paranoia. Journal entries referring to the whispers in the walls. That phrase stopped me cold. The whispers in the walls. I hadn't told anyone about the whispers yet, but I'd started hearing them. Late at night, right around 3 a.m., just like in the dream. They weren't loud, just barely audible, like a conversation through a thick wall. Too muffled to understand, but always there, always in the same rhythm. I clicked back through the report. No name given for the tenant, just initials, AH. I went back to the video I'd recorded of the shadow in the hallway, and for the first time, I noticed something in the reflection on the closet door. A faint outline. Not a person, not exactly. More like a shape. Like someone hunched low, as if crouching just inside the panel, watching. I didn't sleep that night. I packed a bag, took an Uber, and stayed at a 24-hour diner until sunrise. But I couldn't leave for good. My lease wasn't up, and breaking it would cost thousands. Plus, I didn't have anywhere else to go. So I went back to the whispers, back to the key, back to the door I still hadn't opened again. But that was about to change, because the next night, I heard it open by itself. That sound. I'll never forget the way it made my skin crawl the first time I heard it open on its own. I was in the bathroom brushing my teeth when it happened. It was late, just after 3 a.m., and I was trying to get to bed early for once. I'd convinced myself that if I just stuck to a routine, normal meals, normal sleep, normal habits, I could claw back some control from whatever the hell was unraveling around me. But then from the closet in my bedroom, I heard that sound. A sharp, metallic click, followed by a groan of wood shifting, then a low, breathy creak as the hidden panel slid open. My body went still. Toothbrush frozen mid-air. Every hair on my arms rose like static. The sound wasn't muffled or distant. It was close, too close. I could feel it echo in my chest. I stood there for a second, foam collecting at the corners of my mouth, heart thundering so loud it was all I could hear. Then I moved, slowly, carefully. I spit, wiped my mouth, and crept toward the bedroom door. The hallway leading to it felt like a tunnel, longer than usual, darker than it should have been. Like I'd stepped into some distorted version of my own apartment. When I reached the doorframe, I hesitated. Just a second, because I already knew what I was going to see. The closet was open, not just the door, the panel. It had slid back again, revealing that same black void from my dream. There was no light this time, not even the usual glow from the hallway or the street outside. Just darkness, cold and complete. And the key? It was in the doorknob, inserted, turned, like something had unlocked it from the inside. I don't know why I didn't run. I wanted to. Every part of my body screamed at me to slam the door shut, leave everything behind, and get the hell out. But instead I stepped forward. I don't know if it was curiosity or fear, or some deeper instinct, like my body was moving without my permission. Either way, I walked to the closet. My hands were trembling, legs unsteady. And then I looked inside. Behind the panel there was a space, bigger than I remembered. The walls weren't drywall, but rough, unfinished brick. The floor was covered in a thick layer of dust, and it sloped downward like a ramp. It didn't make sense. There wasn't supposed to be anything behind that wall. The apartment wasn't that deep. But what I saw next made me forget everything else. Footprints in the dust, clear as day, barefoot, human, leading out of the darkness and into my closet, and next to them, drag marks, like something had been pulled out or crawled. I stumbled back, hand over my mouth, bile rising in my throat. That's when I saw it, a shape, just barely visible, in the far corner of the hidden space. It was crouched low, its head tilted at a wrong angle. I couldn't make out its face, but I knew it was looking at me. Then it moved, just a twitch, a shift in weight. That was enough. I slammed the panel shut, shoved the box of sweaters back in place, and ran out of the room. I didn't even bother locking the door. I just bolted into the hallway, down the stairs, and out into the street, wearing nothing but pajama pants and a hoodie. I stood there on the sidewalk, barefoot and shaking, watching the windows of my unit from the outside, waiting for something, someone, to appear behind the glass. But nothing did. Eventually, I went back upstairs. I don't know why. Maybe I hoped it had all been in my head. When I got to the apartment, everything was quiet. Too quiet. like the silence was pressing in from every wall. I checked the closet, still closed, the panel unmoved, the box untouched. No footprints, no drag marks, nothing. It was like it had never happened. But I know what I saw. And worse, I knew that whatever was back there was waiting. After that night, the dreams got worse, more vivid. I'd find myself back in the hallway behind the panel. Only now, it changed. The walls were narrower, the ceiling lower, the whispers louder, always just beyond understanding, but unmistakably angry, like they were disappointed in me. I tried staying awake to avoid dreaming, but even when I didn't sleep, the hallucinations started bleeding into the real world. I'd hear scratching in the walls during the day. Shadows would flicker across the floor when no one was there. And the worst, my reflection stopped matching my movements. It was subtle at first, a split-second delay in the mirror when I turned my head. But then it became more obvious, like the thing in the mirror was watching me, testing me, smiling when I didn't. I covered all the mirrors in the apartment with sheets. It didn't help. The day after I taped up the last one, I found the word open written in condensation on the bathroom mirror, and I hadn't even taken a shower. I tried reaching out to people, friends, family, anyone. But every time I picked up the phone, the line would crackle, cut, die. Emails bounced, texts stayed unsent. It was like the apartment had swallowed me whole and was now cutting off every exit. I even tried moving out, packed a bag, grabbed my keys, made it halfway to the door. Then I heard the voice, right behind me, low, wet, whispering, "Don't." I turned around, and there was nothing there. Just an open closet, and the panel? Wide, open, like it was inviting me. Number, like it was daring me. I stood there on the edge of a nervous breakdown, staring into that abyss, and I realized something. It wasn't going to stop until I went inside. That's what it wanted. That's what it had always wanted. So that night, I made a choice. I waited until midnight, lit every candle I had in the apartment, turned on my voice recorder and started narrating everything. Yes, this recording. Then I opened the panel. It didn't creak this time. It slid open silently, like it had been oiled. Inside, the same narrow passageway waited, black as pitch, silent as death. I stepped inside. The moment I crossed the threshold, the air changed, colder, heavier, like stepping underwater. The brick walls seemed to breathe, and the further I walked, the tighter the space became. Until eventually, I had to crouch, then crawl. Then, I wasn't sure I was even moving anymore. The whispers were back, louder now, chanting. One becomes two, two becomes none. One becomes two, two becomes... It looped endlessly, maddening until it wasn't just in my ears anymore, but under my skin. And then I saw it. The room, hidden at the end of the corridor. It was circular. The walls carved with symbols I couldn't comprehend. The floor etched with deep gouges, claw marks, bone fragments. I couldn't be sure. In the center of the room was a mirror, tall, old, cracked down the middle like a scar. And standing in front of it was me. But it wasn't a reflection. It was another me. Same clothes, same face, but wrong. Its eyes were black. Its smile was stretched too wide, and it didn't copy my movements. It stood perfectly still while I trembled. Then it spoke. "You finally made it." Its voice was mine, but distorted, like multiple versions layered over each other. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. It raised one hand, and the moment it did, I felt my own arm move. Against my will, like a puppet on strings, it pointed to the mirror and said, "One must stay." I don't remember what happened after that. Not clearly, just flashes, the sound of my own screaming, hands dragging me backward, the mirror shattering. I woke up on my bed, fully clothed, covered in dust and blood and mirror shards. The closet was sealed, the panel gone, like it was never there. But the worst part? When I checked the mirror in the hallway, my reflection was gone. Not delayed, not twitching. Gone. Just an empty hallway where I should have been. You don't realize how much you rely on your reflection until it's gone. For the first few minutes, I thought maybe the hallway mirror was broken. I turned my head, waved my hand, even got close enough to fog the glass with my breath. But there was nothing. No silhouette, no movement. Just a perfectly clean reflection of the hallway. Minus me. I stumbled back, breathing hard, eyes darting toward the living room mirror, one I hadn't covered yet. I ran over, yanked the blanket down, and froze. Same thing, no reflection. It was like I wasn't there, like the mirror wasn't ignoring me, but actively refusing to acknowledge me. The rest of the apartment reflected just fine. The furniture, the windows, even the flicker of the ceiling fan, but not me. Not my shadow, not even a blur. I can't explain the kind of horror that sinks into your bones when you realize the laws of physics, the absolute fundamentals of reality, have turned against you. I checked every mirror I could find. Nothing. No bathroom mirror, no microwave reflection, not even in the screen of my turned-off TV. I had vanished from every surface, And then came the voice, not from the apartment, from inside my head, low, gravelly, soaked in static and familiarity. It whispered just 3 words. You let it in. After that, everything changed. I stopped feeling hungry or thirsty. Food tasted like ash. Water felt thick and warm. Even coffee, my one remaining comfort, became undrinkable. The smell suddenly rancid. But worse than the physical stuff were the episodes. I'd lose time. 10 minutes here, an hour there. The first time it happened, I was in the shower. I turned the water on, blinked, and suddenly I was standing on the sidewalk outside my building, dripping wet, a towel wrapped around my waist. No idea how I got there. The second time, I woke up in my bed, my hands covered in dirt, fingernails packed with black soil, the sheets ruined. A foul smell I couldn't place clung to my hair like rot. I checked the CCTV footage from my building. I had access through a resident portal. Around 2:53 a.m., the camera outside my door showed me walking out of the apartment, barefoot, expressionless, holding something that looked like a shard of broken glass. In the footage, I stood motionless in the hallway for almost 4 minutes. Then I walked back in. No emotion, like I wasn't me, like something else had taken the wheel. I tried deleting the footage, but the system wouldn't let me. When I refreshed the page, the video was gone anyway, replaced by an error message. No subject detected. But the hallway was right there, so was the glass. The only thing missing was me. By now I was spiraling. I stopped going to work. Not that it mattered. No one from the office called or texted. No emails. It was like I'd been erased. I tried ordering groceries, but the delivery guy never showed. My phone battery stopped draining. My Wi-Fi stayed connected, but every web page redirected to the same page. A black screen with one word. Stay. I thought maybe I was dead or dreaming. But then I cut myself. On purpose, just to be sure. I bled. The pain was real. Too real. And the thing in the closet, it wasn't gone. I could still feel it, scraping against the inside of the wall, breathing against the plaster. At night I'd hear footsteps, bare feet slapping against tile. Sometimes the light under my door would flicker, even though every switch in the apartment was off. And the worst part? I started seeing him, my other self. Not in mirrors, in person. It started with quick glimpses, a flash of movement across the kitchen, a shadow slipping into the hallway. But then he began standing in full view, watching me from across the room, expressionless, unmoving, identical in every way, except the eyes, black as ink, void of any light, like someone had scooped out the soul behind them and filled the sockets with silence. One night, I woke up to find him standing over me, inches from my face, not breathing, not blinking, just waiting. I screamed. He didn't flinch, just slowly reached out and placed a finger on my lips. "Shh," he whispered. "You'll wake the others." Then he vanished, not like disappearing into air. He literally walked backward into the closet, into the wall. I tried leaving again. I made it as far as the front steps this time before the world around me glitched. That's the only way I can describe it. 1 second, I was outside. The next, I was back in my bed. Same pajamas, same posture, same time on the clock. But I remembered walking outside. I remembered the wind on my face, the cars, the noise, and then, just snap, I was back, like reality had hit rewind. The days started blending together. Time no longer moved linearly. I'd wake up at night and fall asleep during the day. Sometimes I'd hear my own voice in the other room, talking, muttering, arguing with someone I couldn't see. Other times, the apartment layout itself would shift. The bathroom would be on the left instead of the right. My bedroom window would show a brick wall where there used to be a skyline. It was like the apartment was rebuilding itself, like I was being conditioned, prepared. I kept telling myself it was insanity. A breakdown, sleep deprivation, something treatable. But deep down, I knew. This was possession, but not by a demon, not by a ghost, by something older, something architectural. The apartment itself was alive. Then last night, the dreams changed. I was back in the hidden room, but it was different. Now there were others, people, or versions of people. Dozens of them lining the walls, eyes hollow, skin gray and cracked like dried clay. Each one wore the same expression, vacant, drained, obedient. In the center stood a mirror, repaired somehow. And standing in front of it was him, my double. Only now, he wore a version of my face I didn't recognize. A little thinner, a little older, smiling with perfect white teeth. He turned to me and said, "Soon, you'll be ready." I woke up screaming, sweating. The panel in the closet was open again. This time, I didn't run. I crawled toward it, not because I wanted to, but because something pulled me, like a rope tied around my chest. I reached the edge and looked inside. There was nothing, no brick, no hallway, no mirror, just an endless black void. And at the center of it, a figure. It wasn't me. It wasn't him. It was all of them. Every face I'd seen in the dream, every twisted version, their voices layered over each other like a chorus of insects. "We live in the walls. We wear the skin. You brought us home." Then they started to crawl out. I slammed the panel shut and shoved my dresser in front of it. It's been there ever since, but I can still hear them. Every night, the sound gets closer. The walls are thinning, and soon, I think they'll get through. Not just into the apartment, into me. I haven't seen my reflection in 9 days. The mirrors are still blank. But tonight, I caught something different. Just for a second, a glimpse. Not of me, but of my double. Smiling from inside the mirror. Something has changed. Not in the way that I've come to expect, with shifting walls or a loss of time. This time, it's deeper, subtler, quieter, like a tension just under the skin of the world, waiting to break through. This morning I found my phone smashed, not dropped, Not cracked, smashed, from the inside. The screen wasn't shattered outward from a fall. It was buckled inward, as if something beneath the glass had pushed its way out. Worse, it was recording. When I pried the back open, the LED was still blinking red. I played the last clip. It was a video of me, sleeping. Except it wasn't from a normal angle. The camera was under my bed. The angle showed me completely still, arms folded over my chest, like a body in a coffin. For 45 minutes, I didn't move. Not a twitch, not even breathing. And then, at the 46th minute, I opened my eyes. Not in the way people usually do when they wake up. There was no grogginess, no blinking, just snap, wide open, directly at the camera. And then I smiled, but I know I didn't. I never smile like that. Not with all my teeth, not with my lips stretching so wide, it looked unnatural, animalistic. And then I reached down, slowly, under the bed, toward the camera. And the last thing the video caught before the screen went black was my hand touching the lens. Not quickly, not in surprise, but like I knew it was there. I didn't upload the footage. I couldn't. Whatever came back from that hidden room, whatever I let in, it's now acting without me, parallel to me, through me. Like it doesn't just want my body, it wants my habits, my history, my life. The more time passes, the more I get the sense it's practicing, learning how to be me. Yesterday, I found an opened envelope on the kitchen counter, an electricity bill, paid. I didn't do it, but someone did. My handwriting was on the check. 2 days ago, someone logged into my bank account from my IP. They transferred money from my savings to checking. I didn't. But whoever, or whatever, is living inside me. It wants to keep the illusion going. I tried staying awake for 3 days. No sleep, no rest. Just caffeine, loud music, and paranoia. On the third night, my eyes started playing tricks. I saw movement in the mirror across the room. But again, not me. The same room, same light, same everything. But the figure in the mirror? It sat up on the couch before I did. Watched me. Waited. And then it waved, not cheerfully, not mockingly, just slowly, fingers twitching like puppet strings being pulled. I broke the mirror with the lamp, but when I looked down at the shards, the pieces were blank. They didn't reflect to anything. Not the floor, not the walls, just blackness. And in one shard, near the edge, an eye looking out. I haven't left the apartment since that night. Not because I can't, because I'm scared I already did. There are gaps in my memory now, whole hours unaccounted for. And every time I check my texts or emails, I find replies I don't remember sending. Worse still, they sound like me. Perfectly mimicked, but always ending in the same phrase. Don't worry, I'm fine now. I'm not. I don't even know what fine means anymore. I started setting traps, little ones, door markers, tape on drawers, flour on the floor to track footprints. Every morning something's been disturbed, but not always in the way you'd expect. Sometimes it's reversed, like my belongings are putting themselves back. Laundry I left in a heap, folded, fridge restocked. Even my plants, long dead, suddenly alive. But when I touch them, their leaves are cold, plastic-like, fake, like a prop in a life I'm no longer the star of. I tried calling my sister. She picked up on the first ring. "Hey, I was just talking to you," she said. That made my blood go cold. "No," I said. "I haven't called anyone in weeks." A pause. "No, just now. You told me you'd visit next weekend. You even FaceTimed me, showed me the new shelves you put up." "I don't have new shelves." "I'm looking at them right now," she added, confused. "Aren't you in your living room?" I was in the bathroom. The door was locked, lights off. I hadn't left in hours. That's when I knew. There are two of me. I don't mean metaphorically. I'm not being poetic. I mean literally. There is another me out there, or in here, wearing my face, living my life, perfecting the performance. Every time I rest, every time I blink too long, I give it space to act. And it's getting better at faking it. Better than me. More polite, more helpful, more productive. It's replacing me. Maybe that's the goal. Maybe that's what the hidden room was always meant to do. A factory for copies, a chrysalis for something else. Last night, I finally gave in and reopened the panel in the closet. This time, I brought my phone and a flashlight. The corridor was longer now, much longer. The brick was no longer raw. It looked clean, finished, lit with sconces along the walls, all flickering in time to a heartbeat I couldn't locate. And at the end, a door, wooden, plain, no handle, just a peephole. I shouldn't have looked. I really shouldn't have looked. But I did. Inside was my apartment, except cleaner, brighter. There were photos on the wall, photos of me with friends I don't have, at places I've never been, smiling, laughing, lifelike, perfect. And there, sitting on the couch, me, reading a book, calm. And when I leaned too close, he looked up, not startled, not confused, just acknowledged me. Tilted his head, then mouthed something through the peephole, 4 words. I deserve this more. I've tried breaking the cycle. I ripped the power out of the wall, turned off the gas, cut the water. But nothing changed. My other self kept living. Even without utilities, I'd hear the sound of a shower running in the other room, dishes clinking, TV laughter. His world stayed intact while mine fell apart. He's more me than I am now. And worst of all, the people in my life believe him. My sister posted a selfie with me yesterday, captioned, "So good to have my brother back to normal." I haven't left the apartment in 2 weeks. I don't know who she took that photo with. Tonight, I'm going to try something new. I found an old mirror in the basement storage unit. Heavy, ornate, rimmed in rust and cobwebs. But the glass, untouched, still smooth, still perfect. I've brought it into the room, propped it up against the wall. And for the first time in days, I see myself, my real self, sunken cheeks, bloodshot eyes, cracked lips, everything that proves I've been through hell. But behind me, in the reflection, he's standing there, smiling, holding something, a hammer. And now, he's raising it. The mirror shattered the second I turned around. I didn't see the swing, didn't hear the blow, just the explosion of glass and the sudden impact as I was flung backward, hitting the radiator behind me with a crack that jarred every bone in my back. The room filled with a fine mist of dust and glittering shards, each piece catching the light like falling snow. For a moment, everything was still. Then the bleeding started. Not from me, from the mirror. Thick black liquid oozed down the fractured surface like tar, globs of it stretching over the broken reflection until the glass seemed to dissolve into shadow. Behind that glass, he remained, not moving, not escaping, just watching and smiling. The hammer he'd raised was still in his hand, but he hadn't crossed over. He didn't need to. The act had been enough. The damage was done, because I wasn't alone in the room anymore. I crawled to the hallway, every limb heavy and tingling like they belonged to someone else. The lights above buzzed and flickered in a rhythm that made no sense. Fast, then slow, then off altogether. Then the whispering began. It didn't come from the broken mirror, or the hallway, or even the hidden room. It came from inside my own mouth. Words I didn't recognize spilled out between my lips like vomit. My jaw moved. but I wasn't controlling it. A dry, rasping cadence that sounded like a prayer or a curse. I tried clamping my mouth shut, but it wouldn't listen. My tongue kept moving, and then my legs did too, against my will. I stumbled back to the closet door, the one leading to that impossible corridor. My hands, my traitorous, trembling hands, opened the panel. The passage was there again, different this time. The sconces flickered blue. The bricks pulsed as if breathing. Something was waiting at the end. I don't know what guided me down that hall. Fear, curiosity, or maybe it wasn't even me at all. I passed through the corridor like a dream, the kind where everything is muffled, slowed, smothered in some invisible fog. I could hear my heartbeat, but it wasn't in sync with the rhythm of my steps. There was another beat, slower, deeper. It felt like the heart of the building itself was alive, and I was walking straight into it. When I reached the wooden door again, the peephole was gone. In its place was a keyhole, and in my hand, without realizing it, I was holding a key. I don't remember picking it up, don't know where it came from, but I knew it fit. The moment I turned the key, the air changed. Everything behind me vanished. The hall, the lights, even the weight of my own clothes. It all fell away like I'd passed through a vacuum. I stepped inside and found myself standing in an exact replica of my apartment. Again, but colder. Stiller, no sound, no hum of the fridge, no buzz of the bulb, no smell. Everything was perfect, too perfect. Even the coffee mug on the table was in the same place as the one in my apartment. Same crack on the handle, same ring of dried coffee inside. But when I picked it up, it was hot, fresh, like someone had just made it. And then I saw myself, sitting at the kitchen table, back turned, still, not reading, not eating, just sitting and humming. I moved closer, the air thick like syrup. Every breath felt like swallowing molasses. My double didn't move, just hummed that same off-key tune, something I almost recognized, something from childhood maybe, a lullaby, a hymn. But then he stopped. In a blink, he stood up and turned. It was me, but older. Not by years, by experiences. His face was worn, his eyes sunken, like he hadn't slept in years. His skin was too tight in places, too loose in others, like a mask made by someone who had only half understood what a human face should look like. "Welcome back," he said. I couldn't answer. He tilted his head, then stepped forward, each motion twitchy, like stop-motion animation. "You opened the door," he said. "That means you're ready." "Ready for what?" I whispered. He smiled, wrongly, to rest. Before I could move, the lights overhead flickered, and the walls began to bend. Not visibly, not like paper, but like they were shifting inward, contracting subtly, pulling me toward the center of the room. Gravity itself changed. I dropped the key. It sank into the floor like it was falling through water. And then I noticed them, figures in the walls, not behind them, in them, dozens, maybe hundreds, faces pressed against the surface like flesh under plastic, screaming silently, eyes wide, mouths open. All of them, me. Some with bruises, others with broken fingers, all trapped in their own moments of failure, as if every version of me that had ever existed, or could exist, had been stuffed into this room. "And now it's your turn," the other me said. I turned to run. There was no door. The corridor was gone, only white walls, endless and pulsing. I screamed. The room screamed back. Every face in the walls twisted at once, mouths opening wide, until the entire apartment roared with my own voice. Not in harmony, in competition, 1,000 tones of panic, rage, grief, laughter. My mind fractured. I collapsed. But I didn't fall onto the floor. I fell into myself. When I woke up, I was back in my apartment. The real one. Or so I thought. Everything looked normal. The mess, the smell, even the buzzing light above the fridge. But something was off. The photos on the wall were gone. My laptop, always closed, was open, playing an audio recording. I hit spacebar. My voice played back. He thinks he made it out. He's still in the room. Let him have this dream a little longer. He earned it. Then silence. I checked my phone. No messages, no missed calls. Then I noticed my reflection in the microwave door. It blinked before I did, and smiled. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I just stood there, staring at my reflection, my other self, grinning back from the microwave door. I blinked again. So did he. But not in sync. My body felt like it didn't belong to me. My skin didn't feel like skin. It felt like fabric stretched too tight over something pulsing underneath. My breathing wasn't mine anymore. It was shallow, automatic, and distant, like I was watching someone else do it. I backed away from the microwave, slowly. That was when I heard the scratching. It came from the bedroom, not loud, not frantic, just steady, like nails gently running along drywall, the kind of sound that gets under your skin, not because of the volume, but because of how intimate it feels. I moved toward the door. I don't know why. I should have run out of the apartment, down the stairs, into the street, screaming like a lunatic. But something in me needed to know. Something wanted me to open that door, even though I already knew what was behind it. The bedroom door was open just a crack. Light bled through, warm and yellow, like sunlight through gauze. It wasn't the light bulb. I never used the overhead light. It had been burnt out since I moved in. I always used a bedside lamp. But this light was wrong. It wasn't coming from any lamp. It was pouring in through the walls themselves. And the shadows it cast didn't behave the way they should have. They moved against the source of light. They leaned in. I pushed the door open. There was someone sitting on my bed, back turned, naked. Their skin was pale, translucent, stretched tight over protruding vertebrae. Black, stringy hair clung to the nape of their neck. I couldn't see their face. I didn't want to. They were rocking back and forth. The scratching was coming from them. Their right hand dragged lazily across the wall, long fingers drawing invisible shapes into the paint. I knew those shapes. My mind screamed recognition, but the details danced just outside my memory's reach, like half-remembered nightmares from when I was 5 years old. Then they spoke, in my voice. You were never supposed to open it. I didn't answer. You let it in. Their head twisted, not turned, twisted, like a corkscrew, vertebrae cracking, muscles snapping. Their face came into view. It was mine, again. But not the same one I'd seen earlier. This version had no eyes, just two dark, wet pits that wept ink down its cheeks. Now we're all trapped. I ran. This time, I finally ran. Out the bedroom, past the shattered mirror, down the hallway. But the front door was gone, not locked, not shut. Gone. Just another stretch of beige drywall, perfectly smooth, like it had always been part of the apartment. No seams, no hinges, no knob. I turned around. The hallway was now longer, much longer, impossibly long. At the end of it stood the door from the hidden corridor, the one with the keyhole. It had returned, and this time, it was open. Just a sliver. Just enough to show movement inside. A figure pacing back and forth, muttering, whispering, practicing. I crept forward, each step feeling like walking on frozen glass, terrified something might shatter. The figure inside moved with erratic pacing, jerky. disconnected from time. He was talking to himself, in full sentences, rehearsing over and over. I'm just a regular guy. I found something strange. Thought I'd tell my story. I found a room. I wasn't supposed to open it. Then I opened it. Again and again and again. Then he paused, snapped his head to the door, and sprinted toward it. I slammed it shut in time, held my body against it, trembling. No thuds, no banging, just whispering through the wood. Let me out. I'm you. I'm the one they'll believe. I staggered backward. The apartment was breathing now, literally. The walls expanded and contracted with a rhythm I could feel in my bones. A deep inhale, a slow exhale. The lights flickered in sync with it. The floor beneath my feet grew warm, then wet. I looked down. I was standing in blood. Thin rivulets of it ran from beneath every door, every crack in the wall. It wasn't pooling. It was flowing, gathering, being called somewhere. I followed it, down the hallway, through the kitchen, back to the closet. The hidden panel was wide open, and the corridor, the one that should have been impossible, was glowing with that same yellow, decaying light. Only this time, the walls weren't brick. They were flesh. The sconces were bone. The floor was soft beneath my feet. Not carpet, tissue, veined, pulsing, warm. The corridor had become alive, and it was swallowing me, step by step. With each footfall, the floor sank a little deeper, like it wanted to hold me. And I let it, because by then, something in me had changed. Something had unlocked. At the end of the corridor, the door was wide open now. Beyond it, darkness, not empty, not cold, waiting. And in that darkness, I saw all of me, every version, screaming, laughing, living, dying. It was like watching every possible future of myself playing out simultaneously. Some were peaceful, some were horrific. One version of me was holding a baby. Another was eating raw meat in a room filled with flies. Another was still a child, sobbing in a closet. And one of them, just one, looked directly at me. Eyes wide, mouth open, and mouthed the words, "Get out!" I turned and ran, back through the corridor, back into the apartment. Only this time, it wasn't mine anymore. It was the original one, the first version, where the mirror hadn't broken yet, where I'd just moved in. The pizza box was still on the counter. The door to the secret corridor was shut, sealed, untouched. I stood there for hours, maybe, not moving, afraid that if I blinked, I'd be pulled back into the other version. I grabbed my phone, opened the camera, snapped a selfie, and there, in the reflection of my eyes, was the corridor. Still there, still open, even if the door was gone. I thought about burning the place down, but something told me it wouldn't work. The room isn't in the apartment. The apartment is in the room. Or maybe it's all a loop, a trap, a game. I still don't know. But now, every night, just before I fall asleep, I hear scratching in the walls and a voice that sounds like mine. You were never supposed to open it, but now you're part of it. I haven't slept in 4 days. Not really. A few minutes here and there, maybe. Little blackout moments when my body shuts down. But even then, I don't dream. Not anymore. Dreaming would mean I'm asleep. What I have now are visions, even with my eyes open, even in daylight. It's like reality never clicked back into place after that night. Like I ripped something open and now I'm stuck between layers. Some part of me didn't come back with the rest. It's worse at night. That's when the apartment feels wrong again. And by now, I've accepted something. This place, this apartment, it's alive. I started testing it, simple things. I left the faucet dripping in the bathroom, went out for a walk, came back. It was dry, bone dry, no water on the counter, no moisture in the pipes, like it had never happened. I stacked pennies on the windowsill, 10 of them. Came back an hour later, 8, then 15, then none. Then 10 again, but a different year on each one. I took photos, videos, but when I looked at them later, they were blank. Either static or worse. Someone else in the frame, someone standing just out of focus, behind me. Always the same height, always grinning. I tried calling friends, family, no one picked up. I don't mean they ignored me, I mean the numbers didn't work. Dial tone, then static. Or endless ringing, or a message that said, "This number is not in service." Even when I called my mom. Even when I called 911. I emailed myself from a different account, just to test. No reply. But 2 hours later, I got a new message from my own inbox. No subject, no body, just a JPG attachment. I shouldn't have opened it, but I did. It was a photo of me sleeping in bed, from inside the room. Only I never took it, and I hadn't slept in days. The worst part? I could see something next to me in the bed, under the covers. The blanket was pulled up to my neck, and there was a clear indentation on the other side of the mattress, a body shape, and the caption under the image read, "Finally home." That's when I started looking at myself differently, in the mirror, in reflections. I started noticing the little things, the off things. My left eye twitches now, constantly. Sometimes it doesn't blink at the same time as the right. My voice on recordings sounds too deep, slowed down. And sometimes my mouth keeps moving after I stop talking. I looked in the mirror yesterday, not to shave, not to brush my teeth, just to stare, to study. I held my hand still and watched my reflection hesitate, just for a second, but enough to make my blood freeze. He blinked too slow. He smiled before I did. I don't think that's me anymore. I thought about moving out, but the lease won't let me. Not the legal lease, the other one. The one I found in the drawer 2 nights ago, tucked under the cutlery tray, burnt around the edges, typed on paper that smelled like mildew and copper. It had my name, my birthday, even a line that said, "Entered by will, not by force." But the landlord's signature was my own, scrawled in handwriting I didn't recognize, and under it, something in a language I can't read. Sharp letters, curved symbols, written in blood. I tried tearing it up. It bled. The paper bled. There's something under the floorboards now. I can hear it at night, crawling, not like rats, not the skittering of claws. It's slower, heavier, purposeful, like it knows I can hear it, like it wants me to. Sometimes it taps, sometimes it whispers, not words, just syllables, wet garbled syllables like a mouthful of oil. Gresht, Nakail, Shuth. I looked up those words online. Nothing. Then I searched on the dark web. One forum, only one, buried 10 layers deep in an abandoned thread titled, "Tenants of the Hollow Floor." Someone had posted, "You hear it too? Good. That means the paperwork went through. Just don't answer if it knocks." I thought it was a joke. Until the 3rd night, when I heard 3 knocks beneath my bed. Not on the door, not on the walls, beneath, like something knocking from inside the foundation. I stayed absolutely still, didn't answer, didn't even breathe. It knocked again, 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. Then a whisper, inches from my ear. Tenant acknowledged, "Welcome." I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't, because I didn't know if I'd wake up the same. I'm starting to forget things now, big things, like what day it is, what month, who I am outside this apartment. I tried going outside 2 days ago, made it as far as the front door. When I opened it, I saw the hallway, but it was different. Longer, darker. The lights flickered like before, but slower, like a heartbeat running out of time. And at the far end, where the elevator should have been, was a mirror, full length, framed in gold. But the reflection wasn't the hallway, it was me, standing in the closet again, holding the flashlight, just before I found the hidden door. The loop had started over, and this time, I wasn't alone. There was a second figure behind me in the mirror. No face, just a blur of skin. But its hand was on my shoulder. I slammed the door shut, turned around, backed away. Every window in the apartment had turned black, not dark, black, like someone had painted over the glass from the outside, or worse, like there was nothing out there anymore. I tried filming it again, this time with my old camera. Analog, no smart tech. Developed the film in the darkroom at a buddy's studio. The photos came back, all white. Every shot, except one. The one I'd taken of the kitchen. It showed the microwave again, and inside it, reflected in the metal surface, was that same version of me, grinning. But now his teeth were too many. Jagged, uneven, no lips, just a maw. And his eyes were missing. I don't know how much longer I can stay here. I don't think I have a choice. The walls feel closer, not physically, but spiritually. Like they've memorized me, and now they're deciding what to do with me. I keep seeing myself in the corners, not reflections, doubles. One brushing his teeth, one pacing the hallway, one standing completely still, watching me while I pretend not to notice. This morning I found a note on my pillow, not written, sewn, threaded into the fabric of the pillowcase itself. It read, "The rent is paid, but the debt is not." It's 3:33 a.m. The lights just turned themselves on, all of them, bathroom, kitchen, closet, even the light inside the fridge, which I swear I never opened. They buzz in unison, a high-pitched hum like an insect scream. But under that sound, I can hear something else. Breathing, not mine. Deep, wet, mechanical breathing, like lungs that don't need oxygen. It's coming from the walls. No, not in the walls. The walls are breathing. They expand and contract subtly, like a chest in rising and falling. The drywall creaks with the effort, and the paint cracks near the corners of the ceiling. It smells like something is rotting behind them. Something massive. I tried running again. This time I didn't even bother with the elevator. I grabbed my jacket, flung open the door, and charged down the stairwell. But the stairwell never ended. It twisted, turned, looped, sometimes descending, sometimes rising, and with each flight, the light got dimmer. I kept track, 47 landings, each identical to the last, until I reached a door labeled -13, not floor 13, -13, no key card, no knob, just a slot beneath it, shaped like a human hand. I didn't put mine in, but I know that's what it wanted. That door, it pulsed. It had a heartbeat. I turned back, climbed for what felt like hours, and finally opened a random door marked lobby. But when I stepped out, I wasn't in the building anymore. I was in the closet. Again, standing in the exact same position I had the night this all started, flashlight in hand, light bulb swinging above me. Only this time, I heard the whisper before I moved the boxes. It said, "You brought it back with you." I think I've done something irreversible. It's not just the apartment anymore. It's me. I've changed something fundamental about my own perception, and now it won't shut off. Every object in this apartment has started watching me. No, I'm not being metaphorical. I mean literally watching me. The microwave window, the reflection in my TV, the toaster chrome, the coffee pot. Every surface reflects me slightly wrong. slightly late. Last night I caught my own reflection blinking when I didn't. It held its eyes open a beat too long, like it was mimicking human behavior but hadn't quite mastered it yet. I threw out all the mirrors. I smashed my bathroom mirror first, shards everywhere. I bled, but I didn't care. Watching the glass crumble was the first time I felt in control in days. But the reflections didn't stop. They just changed locations. Now I see myself in puddles of water, on the blank screen of my phone, even in the dark window at night. And it's always that version of me. The other one. The one with the too wide smile and the missing pupils. The one that seems older, like it's been here longer than I have. 2 nights ago, I found a journal under the floorboards in the bedroom, handwritten, pages stuck together with something dark and crusted. It wasn't mine, but the handwriting, unmistakably mine. It started with normal entries, grocery lists, rent reminders, therapist appointments. Then the entries shifted, more erratic, words crossed out, entire pages blacked with ink. And on the final page, written in jagged, bloody slashes, "He's not dead, he just changed rooms." I think that line broke me, because I understood it. This thing, whatever it is, moves like a tenant. It occupies. It doesn't kill. It doesn't possess. It replaces. You don't notice until it's too late. Until you wake up and realize your smile feels alien. Until your laugh sounds like it's echoing from a tunnel. Until you start forgetting your own birthday. Mine was last week. I didn't remember until I saw the date on the lease again. But when I checked the calendar on my phone, it wasn't there. There wasn't even a calendar app anymore. Just one new app called Resident Log. Password protected. I never downloaded it. But I recognized the icon. It was the same spiral pattern etched into the back wall of the hidden room. I think the room is a mouth. Not metaphorically. I mean the architecture of it. Narrow walls, curved ceiling, wet black insulation between the beams. It resembles the anatomy of a throat. And I think I walked into it. Willingly, I think I was swallowed. And now, everything around me is digesting. My thoughts are slower now, sludgy. I write things down just to remember. Sticky notes everywhere. Don't trust the mirror. Don't eat the food. It's not your voice on the voicemails. If they knock, don't answer. I found one this morning on the fridge that I didn't write. It said, "You're doing so well." And it was signed. Roommate. I don't live with anyone. At least, I didn't used to. But I've started hearing footsteps at night. Just one set. Pacing slowly. And once, I swear this is real, I woke up and found 2 toothbrushes in the holder, both wet. Mine and another black bristled one. I threw it out. But the next night, it was back. Only now the toothpaste was used up, and the cabinet door was slightly ajar. I think I know what's happening, and I think it's not just this building. It's an infection. A mimetic virus built into certain architectural structures, buildings with the right floor plans, hallways that form certain angles, rooms that echo at the right frequencies. These places are traps, designed to attract broken people, lonely people, people like me. And once you're inside long enough, once the patterns learn your rhythm, it opens. A door, a wall, a hidden panel, something you're not supposed to touch, but you will. Because curiosity is the invitation. I tried emailing someone last night, a Reddit mod, just to get this out, to tell someone. But the message bounced, and then a new one arrived, from my own address, no subject, no text, just a recording, an audio file labeled tenanttermination.wav. It was only 5 seconds long, just breathing. And then a voice whispered, "You broke the lease." I don't think I have much time left. Not in the way you're thinking. Not like I'm dying. But like I'm being replaced. The me that's still here, the part writing this, is trapped in the narrow space between walls. I can see everything now. I can see the other me cooking breakfast, talking on the phone, answering texts with my voice. It's better at being me than I ever was. And the worst part, nobody notices. Nobody ever notices. Because that's the trick. The switch doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow fade. Until the person you used to be is just a rumor in the insulation. If you're reading this, and you live alone, check your walls, not the drywall, the space between them. Do they feel warm? Do they hum when you press your ear to them? Do your reflections move when you don't? Then I'm sorry.